Greetings from Better Marriages America. I'm Priscilla Hunt.
And I'm Greg Hunt. I began thinking about the dynamics that have helped you and me keep it real and really increasingly develop a transparent, authentic relationship with each other in the midst of the ebb and flow of life, which includes some of life's challenges. And so
ups and downs.
I actually created a list of things that I started thinking about that were really significant. And one of the things that I found myself reflecting on is how we've nourished our relationship in light of all of our differences, because you and I do have significant differences.
We have a few differences.
Extrovert, introvert, the detail person versus the big picture person. Some of those differences have been significant, and the way I think about keeping it real has involved how we've navigated those differences. So the first thing I would mention is simply acceptance. I think especially in the first year of our relationship, it was coming home to me that we were not going to enjoy our relationship if either one of us was on a improve the other person kick.
Trying to change each other is not going to work.
Right, that we really needed to come to terms with our love for each other just the way we were, and so my ability, just to speak for myself, to accept you for who you are and not try to change you, to really see the particulars of who you were and to affirm those as part of your DNA was critical.
I think celebrating our differences is another way to look at that as well. So I think, in our relationship, first was the self-awareness that we are different, and it took us a while to really understand that those differences could lead to conflict. So we recognized that we were different, we accepted each other, and we celebrated that we were different, and that we actually brought to the relationship complementary strength and a complementary outlook on life, and things that have made us more well-rounded.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Complementary is a great word, because it became a matter not of being frustrated by our differences, but to really focus on how our differences contributed to a richer relationship.
Right.
I think of the strengths you bring that I don't have, and I really love. Of course, the first thing I think of is you really welcomed me into the outdoors.
Yes.
I grew up in a family where Mom thought roughing it was staying at a Holiday Inn. So to move into a family where outdoors was the thing, and you loved the outdoors, where you loved camping.
And you embraced that and came along for the ride, and Chinese food.
Oh, Chinese food, that's right. That's right.
That was the other thing. And of course, you introduced me to the world of museums and pizza. Which is still not my favorite, but I've learned to eat it and enjoy it with you.
You have been very gracious about accepting pizza into our world.
Another way I think that we have kept it real is that we have kept current with each other. And I mean that at two levels. One is the day-to-day.
Right.
So understanding, being interested and caring about what is on your agenda today. What are your concerns today? What are you looking forward to today? What time are you going to be home for dinner? Those basic things like that. But then at another level, staying current as it relates to our relationship. Our relationship this morning is different from our relationship yesterday.
Right.
Because we're not the same. And so keeping current and understanding where we are in the seasons of relationship, I think has been an important thing too. Yeah,
and it comes into play in the longer term as well, because our lives are evolving, and things are developing as we move into our separate orbits. And I think about the work I do with congregations, the work I do as a professor. Those are worlds that, unless I'm sharing with you, what's going on, you don't know about them. And there are things that are happening in those worlds that are either affirming or stressful or challenging or intriguing. And I want to be on the journey together. And so drawing you into what's happening for me is a really valuable part of that. And I love the fact that you do that for me, that we get to check in on that, stay current about that, and do so over the long haul.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Another thing I think about is the impact of accommodating and forbearing with one another, because some of our differences are they're well set in our lives, but they're not necessarily positives. And our ability to actually accommodate each other is really important. We each brought baggage into our relationship. I have touch points, sensitivity points in my life where you may inadvertently push a button, and then I kind of react to that, and I think it happens for both of us. I appreciate the fact that we both have a really strong commitment not to push each other's buttons.
Yeah.
And I think one of those aspects of love that you and I have both really been intentional about is we know each other's buttons. We've learned them better and better as the years have gone by, but we have made a ferocious commitment not to push those buttons intentionally.
Because every time that button appears, we have a choice.
Right.
And we can make a choice not to push that button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are themes I'm hearing, us talk about, and I want to summarize them before I forget them. One is acceptance.
Yeah.
One is growth. One is, what was the other one?
Well, the complementary strengths.
Complementary strengths.
And we kind of had mutual influence on one another.
Yeah.
And even when you're not around, for instance, I love sitting outdoors for a dining experience. And I prefer to be outdoors now. That was not in my wheelhouse before you and I met.
Yeah, we've evolved,
Right.
because of each other's relationship. I also think of the importance of fun for us.
Yeah.
We can get very serious in life.
Yeah.
We have very important jobs, and forgiveness and forbearance, that was the other theme I was thinking about. But anyway, we have a lot of things going on, and we have to be intentional about building fun into our day-to-day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, life gets very serious. And along with that, you are my best friend. And part of that has been because through the years we have nurtured that friendship and have just more and more been able to enjoy each other's company and being together.
Right. Yeah, I think some of it is aided by the fact that our kids are grown now and we don't have those extra demands in terms of family system. We have more flexible time for each other. But I think it also has to do with maturing and realizing having celebration and adventure in our lives is a really critical part of what energizes us. Fortunately, both of us love the sense of adventure.
Yes.
We love to travel, like going to movies, like hanging out with friends, like watching comedies and laughing. Both of us have playful sense of humor, and all of those things do make a difference.
Yeah.
I'm aware too that in those differences we manage our relationship around those differences. One in particular I think of is that I'm the extrovert and you're the introvert. I'm an external processor, you're an internal processor. It was hard for me to give you permission to process internally when I was wanting to go ahead and dig in on a topic,
Right.
resolve a conflict, and it was, in fact, anxiety-provoking when you wanted to sort of back away.
Yeah, I needed space.
Yeah, and I was afraid you'd get your space and not come back.
Right.
So it was helpful to me when you could say to me, I need my space, we will talk about this, but I need some time.
I will be back.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that you even though it was like reining in a horse for you because you were really ready to deal with whatever it was.
Yeah.
There's our 10 minutes. But you gave me permission once you were reassured that I would be back, but I needed to get away for a few minutes and process.
Yeah. And I'm going to wrap it up with one more because I think it's so important. I appreciate that Heather's chapter in the book is on forgiveness. The power of forgiveness, because that has been critical to our relationship. I blow it. and you acknowledge when you've fallen short. And our ability to deal with that, confront that, and not let issues accumulate, and understand the language of apology, and to incorporate that grace.
Yes.
So that we're not stuck in the unchangeable past, but can liberate ourselves and our love for each other for the future, for a better tomorrow. And I've appreciated that as a powerful reality in our relationship.